Hey folks, today's DevOps SLA interview question is kind of an important one. It gives you a broad spectrum of things. So the question is, what is a DevOps stack to you? Give as many layers as you can think of. Now, the reason question is so useful is because you can be asked many different questions that can be answered if you have this in your head, or at least we have most of these layers in your head. For example, if the interviewer is asking you, hey, how do you deploy a new service to a cloud, right? When you answer that question, you kind of have to think of most of these layers to answer the question fully, in a comprehensive way, right? Because if you have this set of things in your mind, then you can really think about a complete answer to many different questions, right? So let's get started with this. So I put together these layers. This is from my head, really from my experience. You can have a different version of this in your head or from different documentation, whatnot, but this is what I thought includes all the possible layers of DevOps, right? So at the very bottom, and I couldn't fit all 14 layers in one table here because it was getting too long. So I put two different tables here. But really, the services layer is actually at the bottom of the CI. So you can think of this as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7, and then 8, 9, 10, like that. So let's start at the bottom. First of all, you need some kind of version control system like GitHub, right, where the code lives. Then you need the code to actually deploy infrastructure, whatever that is. An example would be Terraform, right? Then when you deploy, you need a network to deploy to. So let's say a VPC in GCP or a VPC in Amazon, but you need something there, and normally you get something in default anyway, but you need to have that. On top of that, you need your compute structure. So this could be your EC2s, this could be your GCEs in Google Cloud, this could be your Kubernetes cluster. This is where all the virtual machines live, right? Next to it, you're going to have some way to store your data. It could be a relational database like MySQL or Postgres, or block storage like S3 or GCS in Google, but you need storage. Or you can have NoSQL database like DynamoDB and whatnot, right? But you need storage. Once you have these, then you can start thinking about your application. And your application could come in the form of a built virtual machine, or it could be a Docker image as a container, but that's going to live on top of these layers, right? Once you have a Docker image, for example, you can then combine a bunch of them into a service. It could be an API endpoint, it could be a service in Kubernetes, but something that actually delivers or answers to a call, right? Now, once you have these things, you're really at the heart of DevOps, the CI/CD pipelines, right? So, for example, if you're making Docker images and you're changing them over time, you need some way to build the image, right, and put it in some kind of artifact repo, from where your Kubernetes cluster or your code is going to grab the latest image of your application and deploy it. And it could be a container image, or it could be a virtual machine image, but you need a way to build that image, and that's called CI, continuous integration. So as you're making changes to your application, you're building new image from it. Once you have that, then you need a process to actually deploy this latest image as a form of a virtual machine or a container, right, into staging, into production, right? That pipeline might involve a bunch of steps. Maybe it needs testing, whatever, right? Those are actually done in some kind of CD pipeline, and GitHub Actions is one. GitLab, I forget the name of the product. And GitLab Runners is one. Jenkins is one. Circle CI is one. These are all apps where you can actually define your CI/CD pipelines. Now, once you have that, now you have to think about high availability, right? So if something goes down, your service must still stay up. And in case of a disaster, like a region goes down or a zone goes down, you need to deploy these things into multiple regions or multiple zones and what have you, right? That will make your application more highly available. You then have to think about scaling. Like if your application is hit with a whole bunch of requests at once, maybe 1 million requests at once, right? How do you scale your virtual machines or your containers? That has to be part of the answer. And auto scaling is one of them from AWS, but there's a million solutions like this. But anyway, you need to think about scaling as a layer of DevOps, right? Now, security goes all the way up and down, right? It doesn't live in just one layer, but I put it here because, I don't know, I couldn't find a better place for this. So you have, when the interviewer is asking you about deploying something or designing something, you have to tell him or her about how you're going to keep this secure. And that includes your IAM groups and users, your keys, your API keys, your SSH keys, your secrets for the application, how you're going to encrypt things at rest and in flight. Are you going to have multi-factor authentication? Are you going to do things in a secure way so you're compliant with SOC 2 or ISO 27001, whatever the compliance you care about? You also have to think about CDNs for your applications if that's appropriate. So let's say you're Netflix and your movies have to be available on the edge where the users are, because you can't possibly download a movie from the US if the user is sitting in India, for example, right? So you have to think about how you're going to have a CDN configured for your application if that's a requirement. Again, these are all the layers that you have to think about when an interviewer is asking you different questions about designing your DevOps stack, right? At the very top of all of this, you have observability. You need to be able to get metrics out of these things, SLIs, and we have a different video on that, but you have to think about what SLIs you're going to actually capture and what service level objectives, SLOs, you care about and set for your different applications and infrastructure. So to me, in my mind, I couldn't think of any other layers, but these are all the layers, DevOps stack layers, right? You need to think about and have in your head, so when an interviewer is asking you about designing something, you don't forget a step, right? So this really helps you with many different types of questions. Hope you find this useful. If you did, please subscribe. That helps my channel, and I will see you in the next video.